We are at the midway point of the season, and the Carolina Hurricanes look to be front runners for the Stanley Cup. And you got to be wondering, what is this team doing good? What is this team doing bad? Who is standing out in a good or bad way? We will be discussing all of that in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're once again listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by the folks over at FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. And I am once again joined by Kyle. Kyle, how you doing this morning?
Hey, pleasure to be back. I'm ready to talk some Hurricanes.
Yeah, and we got a lot to talk about today. We're at the midway point of the season right now. The Hurricanes are in their bye week, which will be coming to an end tomorrow, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow, folks. And it's time to talk about the midway point of the season. And the Hurricanes, they've been, for the most part, doing pretty darn good this year. And they're looking like real Stanley Cup contenders. A lot of folks picking them to win the whole thing. What are some things that you have liked from this team? We're going to start off on a positive note.
Yeah, things that I've liked. The start of the season, we had a very, very tough stretch of games. There was a lot of time spent on the road, especially out the West Coast, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. The curse could be you start off on the road, first 15, 20 games, you got, 10 or 15 of them on the road, especially out on the West Coast. That could hurt you and, put you on the wrong foot starting off the season. But Carolina, does what they did. And they ended up going out there, winning a ton of those games. We had one of the best away records for the start of the season, other than the Bruins. And it just allowed us to, when we were able to get a big homestand, especially starting in December, just start catching fire. And ever since December, we've been the number one team in the NHL as far as records concerned at 23-3-3. That's an impressive feat to do for a team, especially that some guys say we can't score goals. Some fans are worried about the goal scoring production. 23-3-3 is not something you get to without having production from up and down the entire lineup. So a lot of positive notes heading into the second half of the season.
Yeah, I agree that that road stretch to open up the season, that was definitely not ideal for sure. Kind of hate when the state fair, kind of happens down here, because the Hurricanes got to do something like that. They got to go on the road, and it's definitely been a year of ups and downs for sure. But there have been a lot more ups than there have been downs, and the Hurricanes, I've definitely been critical of them at times for not playing complete games, but they have definitely, at least as of late, been able to really just everyone just go out there and do their jobs. And that is really, really good because it feels like a lot of the problems that they faced towards the end of regular season into playoffs in these past few years, they were dealing with these pretty early in the season. And I kept saying, throughout the entirety of it, I'd rather deal with these power play problems or offensive production problems. I'd rather deal with all of these early in the season and get this stuff figured out than be dealing with it, a month before the playoffs or dealing with it in the playoffs like we've seen before. But yeah, as a whole offense, guys have been really stepping up to the plate because really gosh, the entire year, the Hurricanes have never been 100% healthy. Someone has been on the bench. Start out the year, Max Pacioretty, you know, uh, we'll throw Jake Gardner in there, even though we kind of figured, yeah, he probably wasn't going to play this year again, with all of his surgeries. But, Max Pacioretty, he wasn't ready to go at the beginning of the year. Then after game one, Andre Kosh is out. And then, more and more guys, in and out as the year goes on. Kosh still has not returned to the lineup. Pacioretty came back. Now he's out again. And the fact that they've been able to do all of this without being 100% healthy is crazy. And it definitely, as good as they've been, it definitely is like a what if. What if they were 100% healthy? What if Max Pacioretty never tore his Achilles, before the season started? What if he was there opening night and we had everyone, minus Jake Gardner? But again, we kind of figured he wouldn't be there.
Yeah, Jake was almost kind of a write-off from the start of the year, and I don't think it was anything to do with his, inability to play at the same
Yeah,
level. They said that they still gave him a shot in training camp. I
yeah,
just I just don't think that, after the back surgery he was up to pace that where he wanted to be, and in all honesty, Carolina needed the $4 million that he was making too. So
hmm,
that portion of it doesn't hurt. We also have to remember we were missing Freddie Anderson for what felt like it might have even been 2 months of the season. He was out for a
hmm,
good stretch of time, and we were relying on a 21-year-old rookie netminder and Auntie Ronto, who's very capable, don't get me wrong, but it's not Freddie Anderson.
hmm,
Freddie's the guy that we expect to bring us to the cup. Now we know he's had his injuries and his ups and downs in the past, but he's the guy that when he's healthy, he's as good as they come, and he's one of the best in the league. So without him for 2 months of the season as well too, and especially that beginning half when we were on so many road games and we are struggling with the travel and everything along those lines, Carolina just persevered. And I think that was the big thing that we were looking at was their third period woes in that first half of
hmm.
the season, where we were winning games going into the third, and then it felt like we were just letting them slip out of our hands, and or just making it a game when it really shouldn't have been a game. We were
Yeah,
still getting 2 points out of it a lot of the time, but we're doing it without arguably one of the best goaltenders in the league. And I think now seeing Freddie back and seeing how Freddie can really close out a game, it's been impressive to see that, we have kind of solved for the majority those third period lapses that we've had in previous years.
yeah, and you bringing up those third period lapses, is a great segue into going into the next segment of things that we haven't liked and things that this team does need to work on improving in the second half of the season and into the playoffs. And we'll talk about things that we don't like that the team has done this year right after this quick break, folks. Now, the Super Bowl is right around the corner, and we are really excited to tell you about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number one sports book in America, and that is FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. So you can download FanDuel now so you can bet on Super Bowl 57, whether you're going with the Chiefs or the Eagles, with a no sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will win or who will score the first touchdown. I Your guess is as good as mine on who's going to do that. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And best of all, you get paid your winnings instantly. So if you win $50 and you need that $50, you can get it right then and there. So join FanDuel today at fanduel.com/locked on to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's fanduel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now, as you're talking about those third period woes that the Hurricanes have been dealing with off and on all season long, it hasn't really been one thing that was like, you could, like the power play which we'll talk about that, uh, where you could kind of pin it down to like this certain stretch of where it was like particularly bad. This has been something that's off and on all season long, and not just this season. It's been an issue for the past few seasons, and it's one thing that I've struggled to figure out why. Like, why does this happen? I could understand every now and again, like, it happens, but it feels like this happens with this team way more than it should, at least in
Yeah,
my opinion, and it's again, like I said, a thing where I've struggled to figure out why.
Yeah, I think a big key to the issues that we've been having in that third period is if you look at our style of play this year versus last year, it is a little bit different. You're
Mhm,
seeing guys like Martin Necas and you're seeing guys like Andrei Svechnikov, our skill players. Aho, he's particularly strong in his own end, but you're seeing guys take a little bit more risky chances. They're taking a
mhm,
little bit more chance because we need those scoring opportunities because we have statistically struggled in the scoring department, in previous seasons. This year is we're better than we have been in the past couple years. And I think that comes down to us being a little bit more, open to making a cross ice pass. We typically wouldn't. We would dump it in last year and try and really get to that forecheck game, which we can definitely play and we
mhm,
play it a lot. But you're starting to see guys really try and carry the mail and really try and create offense when there's not particularly something always there. And then you're seeing those turnovers come back in. They're coming in 2-on-1, or you're getting a fast break going up ice that creates chaos. And I think the majority of that just comes down to, like I said, Carolina's being a little bit more risky with their offensive strategy. And it's going to come at the cost of some defense at times. But I think Carolina, what they've done in the second half of the season to lock down that defense a little bit better and really understand when the right time to make those risky plays are versus when, mathematically you're 5 minutes left in the third period, you're up by a goal. Hey, maybe let's get the puck in deep instead of trying to make a crazy play to, get an insurance goal. Let's make the guarantee play instead of making the risky play. But we still need that risk in our game because we need the offense. We need the goals. And you're seeing surges from Necas and Svechnikov. And yeah, Svechnikov hasn't scored as of late, but he's still getting on the board with the assist and he's
mhm.
still making a difference in that department. But that all comes down to, I think Rod's giving them a big green light into saying, hey, listen, I don't care if you turn the puck over, just try and create some offense, try and create some plays because these guys are so heavily skilled. And you saw it with Svechnikov making it to the All-Star game. They're so heavily skilled and have such good upside that I think giving them a little bit more of the green light is going to come with its ups and it's going to come with its downs. And I think we saw the down portion of it in the beginning half of the season. I think we're trending up though, as far as that defensive third period statistics are concerned.
Yeah, and, what you mentioned all that, I feel like some of that could be attributed to, like you said, they in the past haven't played that kinda game, and it could be more of a learning curve, I guess,
Yeah.
and, because these guys, Natchez, Aho, Svetch, these guys are getting to the point now where, like, "Hey, you're the guys here." It's not, we'll bring you guys in to help, like Max, but the keys are yours at this point, and you need to step up and, get it done. And, you know, they're having to make those, different plays, and it's something they're not used to doing. So, yeah, there's gonna be mistakes, and, I think that, they do need to keep in mind of, like you said, sometimes going into that 3rd period and getting that insurance goal, go with the safe play, not the highlight reel play. Because so many times in years past, they, went with the safe play and it worked out for them, but they don't need to get too far away from that and they need to play smart. But I think that's just something that's going to come with age and, getting used to, adding this element to their game. Um, Another thing that I do feel that they need to definitely be working on. we talked about it, last time we talked was the power play and just how big of a step back it has taken this year, and it has improved little by little, as the season has worn on. But you look at that. I think we mentioned it the last time we talked, but I'm not sure. I think one thing that comes down to the power play of it being as poor as it has been this year has been just there being so many new guys there. I think last year, we when we had so much turnover and so many new guys, on power play and whatnot, I feel that was a bit of an outlier of how good things clicked from the get go. And then, as time wore on, it and we got into the second half of the season, and the playoffs, it trended downwards. And come playoff time, good luck finding it.
Yeah.
And I as much as I enjoyed that, I wish we would have had this year last year, because I think, last year they really could have went on a run. And, I think they can this year as well. But now they've had these issues of the power play just not working. And they've had these issues in the first half of the season. So
Yeah.
they're gonna kind of know what to do and like, all right, like you mentioned with Brent Burns, all right, Fetch is going to be here rather than there. And they're going to be more used to these things. They're going to be used to these problems. And, hopefully come playoff time, we don't have that issue.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is the positive portion of the power play that we're getting to so far. First half of the
Mhm.
season, we couldn't get anything to fall for us. We really weren't generating a lot of offense off of it. There really wasn't much coming about. It was just kind of we would get into the zone, stagnant, pass the puck around, and or we wouldn't even be able to get the blue line. A lot of teams were really crushing us at the blue line the first half of the season, and I think that's been a big change is that we're really getting into the offensive zone a lot smoother than we have been.
Mhm.
And I think a big portion of that comes down to Nate just being that swing guy. And I don't believe he was at the beginning half of the season, but he's turned into that swing guy that's flying up the ice. We forget that. Yeah, Andrei Svechnikov won the fastest skater competition. He's not even the fastest guy in his line. Marty
Mhm.
Necas is one of the fastest guys in the NHL, and he was last year. I'm pretty sure statistically he was the fastest recorded skater in the NHL last year during any given shift. So him being able to just kind of carry that amount of speed coming in, it's hard for a defense to stand up at the blue line when you got a guy coming 100 miles an hour at you and coming in with a full head of steam. And I think that's been a big asset that Carolina is really starting to utilize is that Marty Necas. But the way I look at it is last year we were red hot beginning of the season. Like no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Tony D'Angelo was really carrying that load. We really had a lot of movement. We had a lot of good plays coming about from that power play. This year it was like I said, polar opposite, and we really struggled at the beginning half of the year, but we're trending upwards. The nice thing is that the way this Carolina team's structured, it doesn't matter if for the first 80 games of the season if our power play is awful, as long as it hits during playoff time, and as long as once we get into the dance, as we like to say it, the dance of the playoffs, once we're there, all of a sudden, if that power play starts to click and it keeps trending the way that it's trending now, because we've been pretty good lately with the
Mhm.
power play,
Yep.
and we've been really starting to capitalize, especially in key opportunities. We've been capitalizing when we really need it most. So if we keep that trend going up and we roll into playoffs with one of the hotter power plays, I'll take a bad start of the season
Mhm.
to a red hot second half of the year any day of the week.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, a lot of the issues that this team has had, third period woes, special teams woes, and another thing, mentioned special teams, penalty kill also for quite a while just wasn't up to snuff. And I think a lot of that, comes back to a lot of the same things, we just talked about with the power play. So, just kind of plop those there as well. But I would much rather deal with these issues now, and so these guys are when we get to those last couple weeks of the regular season into the playoffs, we can be like all right, we know what to do should you know Nate just be in the box or whatever. Yeah, or and if this guy's hurt or whatever, these guys they know how to deal with this stuff. Not saying they didn't before, but it's one thing to know how to deal with it like in your head, but then like actually like have to deal with it. It's a whole different ball game, and you know and you get into the playoffs, you're going to be dealing with, no disrespect to, a team like Arizona or whatever. A team you're going to play in the playoffs is going to be a bit better than them. And they're going to be better at capitalizing on, those opportunities that you present to them. And you're going to know just how to handle those when those situations arise. And I'm really confident in this team heading into the second half of the season because, like you said, a lot of the issues where they were struggling in the first half, they are trending upwards. Not saying they won't take a step back because you figure there's still gonna be bad games that they're gonna have, here and there. I don't think we're gonna win out, the back half of the
Mhm.
season or anything like that, but it I'm really confident in this team. I feel like they got those core group of guys that we talked about that got handed the keys, Aho, Natchez, Sveshnikov, those guys. I'm feeling really confident in them that they're ready to really just be in the driver's seat, take this team on a run. I'm really confident in them. And now that we're talking about specific players, um, you know, guys that have stuck out to us in good ways and in bad ways. Yeah. Not everyone has been perfect this year. And we will talk about all those guys right after this quick break. All right, folks, we are back. And now it's time to talk about the folks on the Hurricanes that have really stuck out to us in good ways and bad ways. And first and foremost, we got to talk about Andrei Sveshnikov. He was, just coming off of his first All-Star game appearance. And like you mentioned earlier, he has slowed down in terms of goals, but that's just in goals. He's still racking up assists, and it's not that he isn't showing up on the score sheet, and he's also just playing a good all-around game as well. It was a very well-earned All-Star game appearance for him. He has played really well this season, and this was something we were looking for from him when he signed that really big extension and that really long extension. You're wanting to see improvements like this from him, and we 100% are.
Yeah, quote me on this now. That extension, give it 2 years from now, that's going to be the best contract in the NHL. I have
Hmm.
zero doubt in my mind. That is such a cheap deal that we were able to get him on for what he's valued and what he's worth. The big thing with Svechnikov, in my opinion, is he's his second half kind of, as we'll call him, lows in scoring and everything along those lines. That's coming down to, I think, him just gripping the stick a little too tight, as we like to say, or
Hmm.
he's almost in his own head a little bit. And I think
Yeah.
a big key to getting him back to where he is he needs to start using his big frame again and using I mean, we saw how powerful he was at the All-Star game. He is explosive when he needs to be. And when he's playing explosive and he's playing that big, let me pull up his actual height and weight here. Yeah, 6'2", 194. That's a big boy.
Hmm.
He's not an easy animal to get off the puck. And if we get him back to playing the way that we know he can and just playing with all the skill that he has, but playing that powerful game that we see even the likes of a Jordan Stahl playing, because he kind of plays that same echelons of game. We need to get him back to really using his body and using that strength that he has in order to make sure that he can get those opportunities that we all know he can create. He's done it for himself previous years and he's done it for himself now. And like I said, I think it's getting out of his own head a little bit and just kind of relaxing. And that's the beautiful thing is with this almost 2 week long break that we're going to have now. It's going to be 10-day break basically in between games. That's a real big opportunity for a guy, especially like Svechnikov and another player like a Seth Jarvis, to really kind of relax, let all those demons out of their head, and come back to a fresh start, fresh slate to the season. I wouldn't be surprised if Svechnikov has a really, really stellar second half of the season because we all know it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really expecting him to have a big second half because we talk about him. I think Seth Jarvis, he is a guy that we could see really start to peak back up. Marty Natchez, he's going to keep doing his thing, and Sebastian Aho, I think we could see him start. I mean, he kind of disappeared, for a little bit, but he was starting to uh, show back up. He was God, I forget what kind of how many goals he had in those last few games, but I know it was really good.
Pretty sure it was 8 in the
y-
last 5 or
yeah,
6. It
it
was
was
something
something
crazy
like
like
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that, but I could see, him and, so many of these top guys that you're wanting to, be top guys and play like top guys. I could really see these guys, as well as some of the depth guys as well, really step up because you look at the moves that other teams in the Metro have made, over the past few days. Like Bo Horvat, coming to the New York Islanders, Vladimir Tarasenko to the Rangers, and there's no telling what other kind of moves teams in the Metro are going to be making here
Let me
over the
ask you a
next few
question
weeks.
here. Who, if anybody, you're Don Waddell sitting up in the press box, who are you going to grab if you think that we need somebody?
Well, I think they're gonna have to. Yeah, I talked about this the other day. Uh, some of the names that have been swirled around the Hurricanes: Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane. No, I think 10 years ago, absolutely go after them. But this is 2023, not 2013, and so just kind of leave those guys. And if you could get them on cheap, cheap deals, when they hit free agency, then that's one thing. But trading for them and their cap hits now, no. Tarasenko was one guy I thought about as well, but he's off the market now. So really now it just comes down to Timo Meyer from San Jose, and yeah, from what the asking price was, it looking like it'd be more picks and some prospects. From what it was supposed, that San Jose was wanting, I do think the Hurricanes could definitely do that. It's just a matter of getting the deal worked out. So I think Timo Meyer would be the one guy that I would really try to go after. They have the cap space now. They have a little over 10 million. I think it's like
Mm-hmm.
10.1 or something like that.
10.2, yeah, on the dot
Yeah.
right there.
Yep. So I would go Timo Meyer. But at the end of the day, we don't get paid to make those decisions. So yeah, I
What?
think that the Hurricanes, the guys that are on the roster, they're really the guys that you expect to be top guys. They're gonna have to play like it with the moves that other teams have made, and I would expect Dom Waddell to make at least one really big trade to help that out because all your other teams around you are making big trades. You're gonna have to do something as well to keep up, and uh, I was really frustrated. You look back the NFL, the entire AFC East, the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins all did stuff to really improve their teams in the previous offseason. The Patriots did not. Patriots didn't make the playoffs. And
Yeah.
the fact that they were in contention for as long as they were was baffling to me. But something like that, you got to keep up with the teams around you. And I think Don Waddell realizes that, and I think the players are going to realize that as well.
Yeah. Kind of where I would feed off of that is I think if I was armchair Donnie, which it means I'm sitting on the back of my couch looking at what Carolina possibly needs. Again, we're not paid to make these decisions. I wouldn't mind us going to get a player like a Ryan O'Reilly if the price is right for him.
Hmm.
Because yes, I guess Barry Kokoniemi has been on an upswing, and I actually have his stats broken down. So in the first 21 games, he had 5 points. It's not very good from what we expect a second line center to be. The next 28 games, he's had 15 points. So he's definitely had a better second portion of that first leg. But I still don't know if that's going to be enough to get us over that hump. And no, Kokaniemi, he's still young and he's still got things to work on. And we all know, and I truly do, I am a believer that he's going to have some really positive upside and he's really going to make good on that contract that we gave him. But I think for the time being right now, getting somebody in that could possibly play that second line center, or if Jesperi decides that he wants to take off in the second half of the season, solidify that fourth line and really, really nail down that PK, because he's going to, Ryan O'Reilly can play both power play and penalty kill. He's one of the better defensive players in the NHL. He's had a struggle this year with the defensive aspect of it, but I think that partially comes down to the fact that St. Louis has really been struggling defensively altogether as a team. But I think maybe grabbing a guy like that really helps Carolina get over that hump because he has such a good leadership and such a veteran presence as well, too. Adding to the veteranship of Jordan Staal, Brent Burns, Paul Stastny, Slavin, guys that have been there before, even at Aho now. He's been there plenty. Yep. He's been there the past 4 seasons in the playoffs. I think adding an extra piece like that, though, never does hurt. He's won a cup before. He knows what it takes, and adding any sort of presence into the locker room, especially with a lot of younger guys like Jarvis, who's been struggling, Kokaniemi, who's been struggling, Svetch, who has been struggling as of late, adding a key presence like that only can help. I don't think it can hurt. So I think if we can get him at a fair trade offer, I think that might be the best move for the Canes.
Yeah, that's a move I wouldn't hate either. I think those are kind of the top 2 guys, at this point, with Tarasenko being off the board. But at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I feel like we gotta mention him, Pyotr Kochetkov. I feel like he's took everyone by surprise. We'll obviously see him up in the NHL again, but he was pretty much one that just defied everyone's expectations of just how good he was for the Hurricanes. Everything that can be said has already been said about him. Obviously, I think he's going to fall out of the Calder conversation, because of Freddie Anderson being back and being healthy. Same with Antti Ranta, so he's not going to hit that minimum game requirement, I don't think. But he was in that Calder conversation for a stretch for a reason. He was playing that dang good, and it definitely makes you feel good that he's the only goalie under contract for the Hurricanes going into next season, and you're not looking at that like, oh crap, he's the only goalie under contract. You're like, okay, we're good. We got to get another guy, but we're in capable hands.
Yeah, the nice thing with Kochetkov too, and I know we're saying he's falling out of the Calder conversation. I believe he's played less than 25 games, and that's the minimum played in order to even be considered for the Calder. And so if he hasn't played that number, guess what? He comes in and he doesn't play another start this season. And you could quote me if I'm wrong, Twitter. I know you guys like to do it, so make sure you tweet at us if I made a big blunder here that he has played more than 25 games, but I'm almost positive he hasn't. These could be up for that Calder next season as well, too. Mm-hmm. So, and he is going to be in the NHL next season. We have him on a one-way contract. So unless we decide that we want to test waivers on him, which I really hope we do not, because I think he's the future for the Hurricanes, then he's going to be in the NHL and he's going to be one of the 2 guys next season. So he still could be very well up for that Calder next season because he meets all the requirements.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But, we could go on and on for hours about guys that have stood out on the team, but we're wrapping it up now. Again, we could be here all day, but the Hurricanes as a whole, everyone has done really, really well this year. And Kyle, once again, thank you for coming on the show. And Caniacs, we will talk to you again tomorrow when we're previewing the Hurricanes being back in action against the Rangers. And as everyone knows, make sure you're following Hurricanes, Locked On Hurricanes at LO_Hurricanes, and myself on Twitter at JaredEllis_96. Make sure you're following Kyle as well. And we will talk to you guys in the next episode.